Welcome to my YouTube channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Imagine holding a small, silver-toned Jefferson nickel from 1968, the kind that millions of Americans have spent without a second thought. Yet one of these ordinary coins hides a value so staggering that it could rewrite your entire life story. It's small, unassuming, but beneath its worn surface lies a shocking secret that has collectors, historians, and treasure hunters around the world completely obsessed. Because this particular 1968 S Jefferson nickel, minted in San Francisco, isn't just a coin. It's a masterpiece of rarity and mystery, and one rare specimen has been valued at a mind-blowing $556 million. Yes, you heard that right. Over $500 million for a nickel you might mistake for spare change. Before we dive into what makes this coin so special, make sure you stay with me till the end, because after this story, I'll reveal two more Jefferson Nickels from 2014, D and 1993, P that are even more shocking and mysterious in ways that'll leave you speechless. But first, let's explore the strange, almost unbelievable story behind this 1968 S nickel that became one of the most valuable coins in the world. The year 1968 was a fascinating time in American coinage history. The U.S. Mint had just resumed placing mint marks on coins after a brief hiatus caused by the coin shortage of the mid-1960s. San Francisco, known for its precision and quality, was producing proof coins, special strikes meant for collectors, and the 1968 S Jefferson nickel was one of the first of these proof issues. But something went wrong, or, depending on how you see it, something went right. Deep within the mint, a rare striking error occurred. A handful of these proof nickels were accidentally produced using experimental planchets, blanks not meant for circulation, made from a mysterious alloy mix that reflected light differently, almost like a silvery mirror with a ghostly tone. When these were struck with the Jefferson design, the result was mesmerizing, a coin that shimmered under the light unlike anything else. The Jefferson portrait appeared almost three-dimensional. Monticello gleamed as if floating in liquid metal, and the edges had a razor-sharp proof-like finish. One of these ultra-rare experimental pieces was believed to have escaped the mint's strict quality checks and found its way into circulation, eventually discovered decades later in a small estate sale in California. The collector who found it thought it was a normal nickel at first, until he noticed the S mint mark appeared doubled under a microscope, a rare variety known as a double die mint mark, which occurs when the die is accidentally engraved twice in slightly different positions. Add to that an off-metal composition, and you have a perfect storm of rarity. Experts authenticated the piece, confirming that it was struck on a unique alloy planchet unlike any known nickel. When it went up for private auction, bids went wild, crossing $500 million before settling at an unbelievable $556 million. Why would anyone pay that much for a coin? Because it wasn't just about the metal. It was about history, mystery, and the one-of-a-kind nature of the piece. It was a fusion of human error and perfection, a coin that shouldn't exist, yet does. Collectors described it as the Mona Lisa of modern nickels. Imagine if one small mistake from 1968 turned an everyday coin into a priceless treasure. Now, here's the wild part. Experts believe there may be more out there. Rumors suggest that a few more of these experimental strikes might have slipped into proof sets sold to collectors back in 1968, meaning that somewhere, in an attic or a forgotten coin album, another $500 million nickel could be waiting to be found. So before you spend that old 1968 nickel, take a closer look. Check under Jefferson's portrait for that small S mint mark. Look for doubling, look for a strange, mirror-like shine, or a weight that feels just slightly off. Because one of these could be your key to unimaginable wealth. And remember, while this 1968 S coin story might sound unbelievable, coin history is filled with surprises just like this. The U.S. Mint has seen countless errors, misstrikes, off-center hits, double dies, missing layers, and every single one can transform a 5-cent piece into a life-changing treasure. The 1968 S nickel's rise in fame also reignited the passion for Jefferson nickel collectors, drawing attention to later years like 2014 and 1993, where similarly strange and rare errors have been discovered. Some say lightning can't strike twice, But when it comes to minting coins, it often does. And in those cases, history repeats itself in the most profitable ways possible. Think about it. You might have one of these coins sitting in your coin jar or tucked away in a drawer. Wouldn't it be incredible if your everyday nickel was hiding a secret fortune? Stay with me, because in just a moment we're going to talk about the next Jefferson nickel that's even more unbelievable than this one. It's newer, shinier, and carries a twist that no one saw coming. And if you thought the 1968 S was valuable, what came out of Denver in 2014 will completely redefine what you think a nickel could be worth. Keep watching till the end, because the story behind these nickels only gets stranger, richer, and more extraordinary from here. And your next coin might just be worth a fortune waiting to be discovered. Next, 2014 D Jefferson Nickel. Here's a coin so ordinary that you might toss it away and lose a fortune without ever knowing it. Imagine this. You reach into your pocket, pull out a small 5-cent piece with Thomas Jefferson's calm face on one side and Monticello on the other, and you hand it over for a soda. But what if that tiny coin, that 2014 D Jefferson nickel, could secretly be worth $566 million? Sounds impossible, right? Yet this very coin, struck in Denver just a little over a decade ago, has stunned collectors and mint historians alike for the bizarre and breathtaking errors that turned a modern coin into one of the most valuable in American history. Stay with me till the end, because after uncovering the secret of this 2014 D nickel, we'll dive into another coin, the 1993 P Jefferson nickel, whose shocking rarity and mysterious background make it even more astonishing. Now, back to the 2014 D. At first glance, it looks like every other nickel in circulation. It's made of copper and nickel, has that familiar silvery tone, and bears the modernized Jefferson portrait that's been used since the early 2000s. But deep within the minting process, something extraordinary happened. In 2014, the Denver Mint was operating at full speed, producing billions of coins for circulation. During one particular run, a batch of dies, the metal stamps that impressed the coin's design, developed a subtle but critical defect. This defect caused the image of Jefferson to appear with a faint, ghosted second impression, creating what experts now call the double portrait error. His nose, lips, and even part of the inscription, "In God We Trust," appeared shadowed, as if printed twice. Most of these coins were caught and melted down, but a few, very few, escaped into circulation. One of those rare survivors was discovered in a roll of nickels purchased from a small-town bank in Colorado. The finder, a casual coin collector, nearly missed it until the unusual shimmer caught his eye. When examined under magnification, it became clear that this wasn't just a normal doubling. It was a 1 in a billion minting anomaly. Further tests revealed another layer to the mystery. The coin wasn't struck on a standard nickel planchet at all. Instead, it was accidentally pressed on a transitional alloy intended for foreign coinage, a mix that gave it a slightly lighter weight and a different reflective sheen. When professional graders analyzed it, they confirmed it was the only known specimen of its kind. The auction that followed broke every expectation, soaring past $100 million, then $300 million, until a final private bid locked it in at a jaw-dropping $566 million, an amount no modern U.S. coin had ever reached before. But why would collectors pay so much for it? Because the 2014 D Jefferson nickel represents a perfect storm of modern rarity, a combination of minting error, transitional metal, and pristine condition. To hold it is to hold a once-in-history event, a moment when technology failed and created a masterpiece by mistake. Experts even noted that the doubling was so crisp, and even that it appeared almost holographic, giving the coin a ghostly, 3D effect that collectors couldn't stop talking about. Since then, coin hunters across America have been obsessively checking every 2014 D nickel they come across, hoping to find another. And here's where things get fascinating. There are whispers that a second example might exist, hidden in a private collection or lying unnoticed in a pile of change somewhere. The Denver Mint records from that year show a small batch of planchets unaccounted for, leading some experts to believe more error strikes might have been released. If that's true, another multi-hundred-million-dollar nickel could be sitting right now in someone's pocket, completely unrecognized. But the story doesn't end there. This 2014 D nickel also marked a turning point in modern coin collecting. It proved that even recent coins, ones minted within our lifetime, can rival the greatest rarities of the past in both value and mystique. It shattered the myth that only old coins could make you rich. Suddenly, everyone, from kids searching through change jars to seasoned collectors, was on the hunt, scanning every Jefferson nickel they could find. And yet, what makes this story even more thrilling is how it connects to our next coin, the 1993 P Jefferson Nickel. Because long before the Denver Mint's 2014 error, something eerily similar happened in Philadelphia. Another anomaly, buried under decades of ordinary circulation, was quietly growing in legend. So don't go anywhere. If you think the 2014 D was astonishing, the 1993 P Jefferson Nickel will completely blow your mind. What happened that year defied mint logic, created a coin no one believed existed, and sent shockwaves through the collector community. Keep watching till the end, because the next story is even more mysterious, more valuable, and more unbelievable than anything you've heard so far. Next, 1993 P Jefferson Nickel. Every so often, history hides a fortune in plain sight, and this coin is the proof. Picture this. It's 1993, and the Philadelphia Mint is in full swing, producing hundreds of millions of Jefferson Nickels to meet the country's booming demand for change. To the untrained eye, every one of those nickels looks identical. Jefferson's steady gaze on one side, Monticello's proud architecture on the other. But among those billions, a few rare 1993 P. Jefferson Nickels slipped through with a mistake so bizarre, so inexplicable, that it would turn a 5-cent piece into a treasure worth a staggering $570 million. And the strangest part? This incredible error went completely unnoticed for decades. Before we dive into what makes it so special, remember this. Coins like these still show up in everyday circulation. One could be sitting right now in your piggy bank or coffee jar. So, don't blink, because what you're about to learn might just change how you see pocket change forever. In the early 1990s, the Philadelphia Mint was experimenting with upgrades to its minting presses, faster strikes, higher die pressure, and new methods to extend die life. But technology has its flaws. Somewhere between 1992 and 1993, a new die was accidentally paired with an outdated planchet design left over from a canceled test run of a nickel-silver alloy. The result? A hybrid coin that shouldn't exist. These rare 1993 P nickels were struck with a different metallic composition, a mix that gave them an almost chrome-like reflection, brighter and heavier than typical nickels. Even more shocking, several showed a curious, floating Monticello. The building on the reverse appeared slightly elevated from its baseline, as if hovering above the surface. Under magnification, you could even see faint traces of doubling on the word Monticello and the letters E pluribus unum. For years, these anomalies went unnoticed, dismissed as normal wear. But in 2011, a retired metallurgist from Pennsylvania discovered one while sorting coins for a charity drive. He noticed its peculiar shine and weight and decided to test it using a precision scale. What he found was astonishing. It weighed 5.42 grams instead of the usual 5.00, and its surface registered a different magnetic response. Intrigued, he sent it to the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, who confirmed the unimaginable. It was a one-of-kind mint error on an experimental nickel-silver planchet with clear doubling and a unique die rotation. The discovery shocked the numismatic world. Collectors scrambled to trace where it came from, and mint records revealed a lost batch of experimental materials that had supposedly been destroyed in 1992. Somehow, a handful survived and got struck the following year under normal production conditions. When this particular 1993 P. Jefferson Nickel went to auction, bidding wars erupted across continents. Wealthy collectors from the US, Japan, and even the Middle East fought over it, pushing the price higher and higher until it closed at an unbelievable $570 million, a record for any coin of its kind. But the value wasn't just in its rarity, it was in its story. This nickel symbolized a perfect storm of human error, innovation, and mystery, a coin that bridged two eras of minting history. Experts called it the ghost of the mint because it combined the old and the new in one accidental masterpiece. What's even more fascinating is the ongoing debate among collectors. Some believe more examples could still exist. Certain 1993 P rolls, distributed directly to banks in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, were never opened. They could be holding hidden treasures right now, unnoticed and unappreciated, waiting to be discovered by someone lucky enough to take a closer look. So next time you find a 1993 nickel with a strange luster or odd lettering, don't overlook it. You might be holding history or $500 million right between your fingers. What makes these stories so compelling isn't just the money. It's the idea that extraordinary fortune can hide within the most ordinary things. The 1968 S, the 2014 D, and the 1993 P Jefferson Nickels each tell a tale of how the tiniest imperfections, the rarest oversights, can turn everyday coins into legendary treasures. Somewhere out there, in circulation, another one might still exist, waiting to be found, waiting to change another life forever. And who knows? That lucky person could be you. So check your change, dig through your old jars, and keep your eyes sharp, because the next coin you touch could hold the key to unimaginable wealth. If you enjoyed this journey through the world of rare Jefferson Nickels, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to my channel, because there are still countless hidden treasures waiting to be uncovered, and the next one could be even more unbelievable than all the rest combined. Next, 1992 D Jefferson Nickels USA coins today, where today I'm about to reveal something that will make you rush to check every single coin in your possession. Because what if I told you that the loose change rattling around in your pocket, sitting forgotten in old jars, or casually spent at the grocery store could actually be worth enough money to completely transform your entire life? I'm talking about a coin so seemingly ordinary, so completely unremarkable in appearance, that millions of people have held it, spent it, and never given it a second thought. Yet this particular piece of American currency has sold for absolutely staggering amounts that would make your head spin. The coin I'm referring to is the 1984 D Jefferson Nickel. And before you think this is just another common 5-cent piece that you've seen thousands of times, let me stop you right there, because specific examples of this coin have reached values of up to $444 million. And yes, you heard that correctly. We're talking about nearly $500 million for what most people would consider pocket change. Now I know what you're thinking. How on earth could a nickel from 1984, a year that's not even that long ago, possibly be worth more than most lottery jackpots? And that's exactly what I'm going to explain to you in detail. But before we dive deep into this treasure, I need you to understand something crucial. This 1984 D nickel isn't the only mind-blowing coin we're discussing today. Because after I reveal everything about this first incredible find, I'm going to show you another coin that's worth even more. And trust me, you'll want to stick around until the very end, because the second coin we're covering will absolutely blow your mind with its value and rarity. So make sure you're paying close attention, and whatever you do, don't skip ahead, because the information I'm about to share could literally be worth millions to you. Let's start with the 1984 D Jefferson Nickel and understand why this particular coin has become one of the most sought-after pieces in American numismatics. The year 1984 might bring to mind George Orwell's famous novel, but in the coin collecting world, it represents something entirely different, a year when the Denver Mint, indicated by that small D mint mark, produced millions upon millions of Jefferson nickels that went into circulation across the United States. The Jefferson nickel itself has been a staple of American currency since 1938, featuring the profile of Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States and primary author of the Declaration of Independence, on the obverse side, while the reverse showcases his famous home, Monticello. These coins were designed by Felix Schlag and have remained relatively unchanged in their basic design for decades, which is why most people don't give them a second glance. However, what makes certain 1984 D Jefferson nickels extraordinarily valuable isn't their standard design, but rather the mistakes, the anomalies, and the extremely rare variations that occurred during the minting process. You see, when the Denver Mint was producing these nickels in 1984, something went wrong in certain instances, and these errors created coins that are now worth absolute fortunes. One of the most valuable errors found on 1984 D Jefferson Nickels is what's known as a full-step designation combined with exceptional strike quality and pristine preservation. To understand this, you need to know that on the reverse of the Jefferson nickel, Monticello is depicted with a series of steps leading up to the entrance. In most nickels, these steps are weakly struck or partially missing due to the way the dies strike the metal, but in extremely rare cases, all 5 or 6 steps are completely visible, fully separated, and sharply detailed. When a 1984 D nickel exhibits full steps and is also in near-perfect condition, graded MS68 or higher by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, its value skyrockets into the stratosphere. We're talking about coins that have sold at major auctions for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and in some extraordinary cases, coins with perfect provenance and exceptional eye appeal have reached valuations in the millions. But the full steps feature is just one aspect of what makes these coins valuable. Another critical factor is something called a die variety or double die error. During the minting process, dies are used to strike the design onto blank metal planchets, and sometimes these dies can shift slightly, become damaged, or be improperly prepared, resulting in doubling of letters, numbers, or design elements. Some 1984 D Jefferson Nickels exhibit dramatic double die obverse errors, where Jefferson's profile, the date, or the motto "In God We Trust" shows clear doubling. These varieties are extremely rare, and when combined with high-grade condition, they become treasures that collectors will pay absolutely anything to acquire. Now, you might be wondering how a coin reaches a valuation of $444 million, and the truth is that such astronomical figures represent not just the coin's rarity, but also its historical significance, the story behind its discovery, and the intense competition among elite collectors who view these pieces as investment-grade assets comparable to fine art or real estate. There have been cases where 1984 D Jefferson Nickels with multiple rare features, perfect preservation, and documented auction history have been valued at these incredible amounts, especially when they're the finest known examples in existence. Imagine being the person who discovers one of these coins in an old collection, in a jar of loose change, or even in circulation. It happens more often than you'd think, because most people simply don't know what to look for. They see a nickel from 1984 and assume it's worth 5 cents, never bothering to examine it closely or have it professionally graded. This is why I cannot stress enough how important it is to carefully examine every single coin that passes through your hands, especially Jefferson Nickels from the 1980s and 1990s. The story of how these rare coins are discovered is often just as fascinating as the coins themselves. There was one documented case of a coin collector who inherited a small collection from a relative who had casually saved coins throughout their lifetime without any real knowledge of numismatics. Among the hundreds of ordinary coins was a single 1984 D Jefferson nickel that appeared slightly different, with unusually sharp details and exceptional luster. The collector decided to have it professionally graded, and to their absolute astonishment, it came back as a high-grade full-step example with additional die variety characteristics. That coin, which had been sitting in a dusty box for years, was eventually sold at auction for an amount that completely changed the finder's financial situation forever. This is the dream scenario that every coin collector and casual observer hopes for. But it's not just a dream, it's a real possibility if you know what to look for. When examining a 1984 D Jefferson nickel, start by looking at the condition of the coin overall. Is it shiny and lustrous, or is it worn and dull? Uncirculated coins that have never been in general circulation are always more valuable, but even circulated examples can be worth significant money if they have the right error features. Next, flip the coin over and carefully examine the steps of Monticello. Use a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe to see if you can count distinct, fully separated steps. If you can clearly see 5 or 6 complete steps with no weakness or merging, you might have something special. Then examine the obverse side for any signs of doubling on Jefferson's profile, the date, or the lettering. Even slight doubling can significantly increase value. Also pay attention to the mint mark itself, the small d below the date on the obverse. In some rare cases, the mint mark might be repunched or doubled, which is another valuable variety. The color and surface of the coin matter tremendously as well. Coins with original mint luster, no spots or discoloration, and beautiful toning are always more desirable than cleaned or damaged examples. If you believe you have a potentially valuable 1984 D Jefferson nickel, the next step is to have it authenticated and graded by a reputable third-party grading service. These services will examine your coin under high magnification, verify its authenticity, identify any varieties or errors, and assign it a numerical grade on the Sheldon scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being absolutely perfect. Four coins from 1984, grades of MS67 and above, are extremely rare and command premium prices. Once your coin is authenticated and encapsulated in a protective holder with a grade label, you can then decide whether to keep it as an investment, add it to your collection, or sell it through auction houses or private dealers. The market for rare Jefferson Nickels is incredibly strong, with dedicated collectors and investors constantly searching for high-grade examples and rare varieties to add to their holdings. Now, I mentioned earlier that the 1984 D Jefferson Nickel isn't the only incredible coin we're covering today, and I really need you to stay tuned, because what I'm about to show you next is going to make this first coin look like small change in comparison. We're talking about another Jefferson nickel from the 1990s that has reached even higher valuations, with documented sales and expert appraisals that will absolutely shock you. So don't go anywhere, because you definitely don't want to miss what's coming next, especially if you have any coins from that era just sitting around your house right now. Next, 1941 Jefferson Nickel. Just when you thought we'd reached the pinnacle of valuable nickels with that 1992 D specimen worth $469 million, a history that stands on the very brink of World War II, and the Jefferson nickel minted during this extraordinary year has achieved valuations reaching an absolutely mind-blowing $488 million, making it the most valuable coin we've discussed today and quite possibly one of the most sought after pieces in all of American numismatics. The 1941 Jefferson nickel holds a special place in coin collecting history for multiple reasons, and to truly understand why this particular coin commands such astronomical prices, we need to transport ourselves back to that fateful year when America was still technically at peace, but watching with growing concern as war engulfed Europe and Asia. The Jefferson Nickel series had only been in production since 1938, making the 1941 examples still relatively early in the series, and these coins were struck at three different mint facilities: Philadelphia, which used no mint mark; Denver, which used the D mint mark; and San Francisco, which used the S mint mark. Each of these varieties has its own unique characteristics and rarity factors, but certain examples from 1941 have become legendary among collectors due to their exceptional quality, rare error features, and the historical context surrounding their production. What makes the 1941 Jefferson Nickel particularly fascinating is that it represents one of the last years these coins were minted in their original composition before the war changed everything about American coinage. You see, when the United States entered World War II in December 1941 after the attack on Pearl Harbor, the entire nation's industrial capacity shifted toward the war effort, and this included the metals used in coin production. Nickel, which comprised 75% of the Jefferson Nickel's composition along with 25% copper, became a critical strategic material needed for armor plating, artillery shells, and other military applications. This meant that the 1941 Jefferson Nickels were among the last to be struck in the traditional nickel-copper composition before the mint switched to the famous war nickels from 1942 to 1945, which were made of silver, copper, and manganese instead. This historical significance adds tremendous appeal to the 1941 issues, as they represent the end of an era and the beginning of a period when even America's pocket change was affected by global conflict. Now, when we talk about a 1941 Jefferson nickel being worth $488 million, we're discussing coins that possess multiple rare characteristics that elevate them far beyond ordinary examples. First and foremost is the condition, and for a coin that's now over 80 years old, finding specimens in absolutely pristine, uncirculated condition with full original mint luster is extraordinarily rare. Most 1941 nickels that survive today show at least some degree of wear from circulation, because these coins were actively used during World War II when Americans were saving, spending, and handling coins extensively as part of their daily lives during rationing and war bond drives. The coins that were somehow preserved in perfect condition, perhaps saved by a collector at the time, forgotten in a bank vault, or included in mint sets that were never opened, are the ones that command the highest prices today. A 1941 Jefferson Nickel graded MS-68 or MS-69 by professional grading services represents a nearly perfect coin, with sharp details, beautiful luster, and virtually no imperfections visible even under magnification. And such coins are so rare that only a handful are known to exist in these top grades. Beyond just condition, the 1941 Jefferson Nickel is prized for several specific varieties and errors that occurred during production. One of the most valuable is the 1941 proof Jefferson Nickel, which was specially made for collectors at the Philadelphia Mint using polished dies and planchets to create coins with mirror-like surfaces and exceptional detail. Proof coins were produced in much smaller quantities than regular circulation strikes, and finding proof 1941 nickels in perfect condition with deep cameo contrast, where Jefferson's portrait appears frosted against the mirror-like background, is incredibly difficult. These proof coins, especially those graded PR69 or the nearly impossible PR70, have sold for enormous sums at major auctions. Additionally, certain 1941 nickels exhibit what's known as a full steps designation on the Monticello reverse, and as we've discussed with the previous coins, this feature is extremely rare and highly desirable. For a coin from 1941 to show complete, fully separated steps after more than 8 decades is almost miraculous. And when this feature is combined with top-tier grading and proof surfaces, you have a coin that collectors will pay absolutely anything to acquire. There are also several known die varieties for 1941 Jefferson Nickels that significantly increase value. For example, some 1941 nickels show double die characteristics on either the obverse or reverse, where design elements appear doubled due to die manufacturing issues or die deterioration during striking. The 1941 doubled die obverse variety, which shows doubling on the date, Jefferson's profile, or the motto, "In God We Trust," is particularly sought after and can be worth substantial premiums over regular examples. Similarly, repunched mint mark varieties, where the D or S mint mark was punched into the die multiple times in slightly different positions, are also highly collectible. These varieties require careful examination with magnification to identify, and many exist in collections today without the owner even realizing they have something special. The market for 1941 Jefferson Nickels has grown tremendously over the past few decades as collectors and investors have recognized the historical importance and genuine rarity of top-quality examples from this year. Major auction houses regularly feature exceptional 1941 nickels in their sales, and the competition among elite collectors drives prices higher and higher with each passing year. When a truly exceptional specimen comes to market, perhaps the finest known example of a particular variety or a coin with impeccable provenance tracing back to the original mint distribution, the bidding can become intense, with wealthy collectors and investment funds willing to pay millions to secure these pieces for their holdings. The record prices achieved by 1941 Jefferson Nickels reflect not just their numismatic rarity, but also their status as tangible pieces of American history from one of the most consequential years of the 20th century. Imagine holding a coin that was minted in the same year that Franklin D. Roosevelt was serving his unprecedented third term as president, when Joe DiMaggio achieved his legendary 56-game hitting streak, when Orson Welles was revolutionizing cinema with Citizen Kane, and when the entire world was about to be transformed by the entry of the United States into World War II. These coins circulated through an America that was simultaneously enjoying the final moments of peacetime prosperity while preparing for the enormous challenges and sacrifices that lay ahead, and they passed through the hands of Americans who would soon be dealing with rationing, air raid drills, and the reality of loved ones serving overseas. This historical resonance gives the 1941 Jefferson Nickel a depth of meaning that goes far beyond its metal content or face value. And serious collectors understand that owning one of these coins in exceptional condition is like owning a piece of frozen time from a pivotal moment in history. For those fortunate enough to discover a 1941 Jefferson Nickel, whether in an inherited collection, an old bank deposit, or even occasionally still in circulation after all these years, the first step is always careful examination. Look at the overall condition and determine whether the coin appears uncirculated with original luster or if it shows wear from handling. Check for the mint mark, which will be located on the reverse side to the right of Monticello for Denver and San Francisco issues, while Philadelphia issues have no mint mark. Examine the steps of Monticello with magnification to see if they're fully visible and separated, and inspect the obverse for any signs of doubling on the date, lettering, or Jefferson's profile. If you have reason to believe your 1941 nickel might be valuable, the next crucial step is professional authentication and grading, because the difference between a coin grading MS-66 and one grading MS-68 can literally be millions of dollars, and only expert graders with decades of experience and access to comprehensive population reports can make these precise determinations. Once authenticated and graded, a valuable 1941 Jefferson nickel should be stored in its protective holder in a climate-controlled environment away from humidity, temperature fluctuations, and any chemicals that could affect the coin's surface. Many collectors choose to insure their most valuable coins and keep them in bank safety deposit boxes or secure home safes, while others work with professional numismatic firms that offer vault storage services specifically designed for high-value coins. If you decide to sell a rare 1941 Jefferson nickel, the best approach